Hey there folks, welcome to the continuing journey in the Story of Moz. In this story I head down south to a new operation, stay there a little while and then head part way north. So just sit back, relax and join me in my journey in episode 8, Moz heads way down south. Let me tell you a story about a man named Moz. The flying in and out really wasn't on. He found a job in Van Diemen's Land, so he headed way down south as far as he can. Tasmania, that is. West Coast mine. Copper, lead, zinc. So from Townsville, we packed up all our belongings that went in the removalist truck, and the family and I drove way down south, some 3,800 kilometres to Tasmania. It was a fairly long journey. We stopped a few times on the way to stop in at my folks for a couple of days, and then at with my wife's folks for a few days before actually getting on the ferry and ferrying across Bass Strait into Tasmania. I recall that on the journey down the west coast we were going over Mount Black. Well, Mount Black was sort of the tail end of the journey. We were approaching where we were going. And partway through the windy sections of Mount Black, my youngest son, who was sitting directly behind me, basically had a bit of an upset and projectile vomited straight into the back of my neck. So, and go figure, I mean, we've travelled 3,800 odd kilometres, and in the last 20 k's of the journey he decided he'd be sick. So we pulled up. I had to clean him up and carry on, and as we were going through Mount Black, my wife out of the blue turned around to me and said, "Where are you taking me?" Because it was fairly isolated going through that area. It's like deliverance country. Anyway, we made it to this operation. The mine itself and the processing plant had been around for a long time. I think it was established in 1896, something like that. So it was pretty well over 100 years old when we got there, and even older now, considering it's still operating. There's a few photos of it here behind me. And it was that old that in the early days horses were used to cart ore out from underground, and funny enough, those horses were even union members of the underground workforce. So there you go. I just wondered if they had their chance to vote as well, but don't know. They were eventually replaced with more modern carriageways, as you can see behind me. These two depictions that you've just seen, they were actually paintings or pictures of paintings from that era. Yeah, so look, when I got down there, it was pretty bloody cold. Even though we travelled in December, leaving Townsville in North Queensland, in tropical north, and about a week and a half later ending up in Tasmania, so far south, I actually had to chop some wood and get the fireplace going in the house that the company house that we were in, just to get warm a little bit. while I think of it, that reminds me of a time where we were travelling from this town going into Burnie, which is north. It was the middle of winter and it actually started snowing. We got to a section where the snow line started. I think they called it Bulgaback Mountain, something like that. Anyway, we got up past the snow line, or in the snow proper, and there was the traffic banked up. And what was happening was there was a guy with a four-wheel drive who was actually towing 2 or 3 cars at a time over Bulgaback Mountain to the other side. So looking at this, I said to my wife, I said, no, we're not doing this, we're going back. So I backed out down the road to the snow line, turned around and headed back to home. Anyway, we got to the northern side of Mount Black, which by this stage half of it was white, and there was a Fairlane parked in this parking area, and the driver was actually standing there looking at Mount Black. So I thought, I pulled up behind him and I got out and walked up beside this guy, typical faction, without even looking at him. We were both looking at Mount Black, and I said, well, what do you reckon? And his response is, well, I'm going to give it a go. And I said, well, alright, look, I'll follow you, and between the two of us we'll see how we go getting over Mount Black to the other side. So off we went. This Fairlane, this Ford, I couldn't believe it, as we were in the snow line, and thankfully the road cambered into the mountain, because the other way was so many 1,000-metre drop off. I don't know, it was a fair drop off. But the road cambered into the mountain, and about 4 or 5 times this Fairlane, he actually slid into the table drain and managed to drive himself out. One particular time he'd actually stopped on the road and the car just went zoom into the table drain, and he managed to get himself out. So we kept going as best we could. I think we were travelling about 5 kilometres an hour, just crawling along. You know, I was white knuckling it on the steering wheel, making sure that the car stayed on the road. And we got this, the last time that he slid into the table drain. That's sort of where he stayed. He couldn't get himself out. So I pulled up there and I got out of the car and walked up, and he said, look, I can give you a lift down to the town. You might need to leave your car here, and I'll run you into town, and then you can get some help from there. And just at that particular time, this four-wheel drive came round the bend, the opposite direction towards us, and they pulled up and said, oh look, we'll tow him out. And I said, okay, fine. So yeah, and so I got in the car and proceeded on the way. And you know, just around that bend was the snow line. He was about 100 metres short of making it till he couldn't get. So you know, there you go. He got stuck there, and he must have got pulled out. The guy pulled him out. Itself, a quaint little town, great people. The people were fantastic and friendly, but some were rather odd. There were people in town that had never left the town. They were born there and had never left the town at all. And they would consider that, and some others would consider that a trip over Mount Black to the other town was a weekend trip. And let's get this into perspective, it's like a 15-minute drive. And Mrs. Moz and I used to go into Burnie on the north of Tasmania, which was about an hour and 20 minutes or something drive. And to some people in this town, travelling that distance was, you know, they'd have to take a week off for holiday to get there. So there was some strange peoples there, but look, very nice. We were there for about 3 years, at which time I learnt to play golf in the rain. Although I was playing golf before, but I never played in the rain. And when I was introduced to it, I was told, this was by the maintenance superintendent. I was the metallurgical superintendent. I was told by the maintenance superintendent that it wasn't rain, it was just heavy mist. That's not an issue. So yeah, so he introduced me to playing golf in the rain. And the thing about that golf course, and you need to know, there's a lot of tiger snakes around the area. And with that particular golf course, if you hit your ball in the rough or in the scrub, you're basically better off taking the drop. I mean, it's too risky with all those snakes in there, and to go in after your ball. And sometimes you can see the snakes. You see the snakes cruising along, and they're the ones that carry these long skinny umbrellas to keep the rain off them. So that was the snake adventures. And the other thing about the golf course were the leeches. When you get home, the first time I got home, this maintenance superintendent said, look, best thing you do now is have a shower and check yourself over. And I did, and I probably picked about 4 leeches off myself. And from that point forward, whenever I went for a game of golf there, I carried a tropical strength insect repellent on me, which I'd spray around my golf shoes, and that stopped them from getting up and crawling up my legs. So there you have it. So yeah, look, after about 3 years in that place, my wife made a comment which was rather disturbing. She said, you know, things are starting to feel normal here. And as soon as she said that, I was on the phone. I had to get on the phone to the bloke I knew, the headhunter I knew in the recruitment agency, and I said to him, mate, you got to get me back on the mainland. I need to get out of here. The wife's starting to feel like it's normal here. And 6 months later I moved on and headed part way north. Family and all our possessions, and we headed north to an operation which this headhunter helped me out getting into. It was just a straight copper mine. It had been shut down. The previous owners, whatever the reason, got into strife and ended up making everyone redundant and shutting the plant down and the underground down. And another company took it on and was in the process of getting it back up and running again. So, and the funny thing is, we headed back north and we're heading back to the town where my mining career had actually started. So I've done a full circle, so to speak, but not the same mine, different operation. So yeah, we got into that operation, started to do some refurbishment work, got involved in that, and I was hired as the senior metallurgist. Although I took a bit of a step backwards, that was fine. I wasn't worried about that. It was good to get back into on the mainland, and so we refurbished the plant. A few photos of it back here. Got it up and running and producing copper concentrate, and very well too. It was very good quality copper concentrate. We were there for, I think it was about 3 years. But even to the stage I thought I was staying there. I bought a house in that town, a home. But after about 3 years, I could see, I wasn't moving anywhere, because everyone that was in the positions were pretty well settled. So every now and then I'd skim through the ads and see what was going on and who was hiring, etc. And I came across this one particular ad for a concentrator manager. That's like a processing manager up in far north Queensland. I sort of thought about it and thought, no, I probably wouldn't get that. And the only reason I applied for it is Mrs. Moz badgered me into it. So, okay, I applied for it and yeah, got an interview, etc. And while all this was going on, we operated at this site a ceramic filter for filtering the concentrate, and the company that supplies these filters were holding a seminar and training course on the filters themselves, which I was sent to by the operation. And yeah, and this training course was actually held in Nandi in Fiji. So I spent a week in Fiji, a few photos here. We did the training course on the filter. Sooner I got back, that I was invited to go to another interview for the job that I'd applied for, and that was actually on site, and talk to the general manager who was on site at the time. The place was still being constructed. And in the end I was offered the position. So yeah, I accepted. And yeah, then again we packed up and moved north, and that's episode 9. If you'd like to hang and watch it. At this point in time, I think it's going to be a bit longer. I'll have to do it in a number of parts because a hell of a lot happened during that time, because I was there for 10 years. And I've got a few stories, photos, some videos. So till then, I hope to see you in episode 9. Cheers for now.